Beat drop. Yeah. Welcome in episode 8 BLT Bets. BaggedMilk, Tyler, and Liam. We are here and we are ready to talk some sports betting with you. And we've been like super hockey focused for a few shows now. And today we're gonna change that up a little bit. We're gonna talk F1. We're gonna talk baseball, basketball, golf, and soccer.
What a variety sandwich.
Oh, delish.
There's a little mayo on this BLT.
Everybody loves it.
Okay, but we are going to start with hockey talk. You know that TikTok trend going around right now? That's like, sometimes when I'm lonely, I think about it often. That is me looking back on how much fun we had betting McDavid and Draisaitl over 1.5 points that entire playoff run.
It was money in the bank more often than not.
It was.
Draisaitl won. Unbelievable.
Both of them really were unbelievable. And the other thing that was unbelievable to me was just towards the back half of the Oilers playoff run, how bad the odds got for McDavid over 1.5 points. It was just like, how is this what you're giving me? There was a couple of games where I bet on it. I still bet on it regardless at minus 160 or something like that. That's not good odds for 2 points in the National Hockey League, but hey, we ride or die.
Okay, but like, it's not good odds, and I totally understand that. But even when it's minus 160, that's implied odds of a 61% chance of it happening. All right. Connor McDavid in this playoff run went over 1.5 points in 12 of 16 games.
Yep.
I'm not that good at math, but that's a good payout. Like you got, and there were games too. And we should say like minus 160 is like the worst it got. There were a few times, like I think early in the Colorado series, and even early in Calgary, where it shifted to like close to even money.
I bet on that Connor McDavid over 1.5. I think every game in the first round for sure, every game in the second round. And I think only one or two of four in the Western Conference Finals, but it was hilarious how often it hit.
And the better one of the two was Draisaitl over 1.5 points. And Liam, you were hammering this every single day. It hit in 9 of 16, which you're like, okay, 9 of 16. That's like barely over 50%. But the payouts were gross.
Yeah, I think even for the last game, what do you have? 4 primary assists. I don't even know if it was one leg. It felt like half a leg by the time the end of the game came around. Yeah. And I believe it was at plus 140 to start the game. I was like, okay, well, the Oilers are going out, but at least I made some money. And it was like a joke going around that I would just wake up and just bet it. And it wasn't a joke. That's exactly what I was doing every single Oilers game day to win the bag.
Wake up, eat a banana, bet Draisaitl over 1.5 points.
We did get an update. There was 5 bananas on game 4. I think that's very important.
With 1 honorary. The 5th was an honorary banana for the boys.
Yeah, it was a posthumous banana.
Mm-hmm.
Posthumous banana. That could be the title of this episode, actually. So you mentioned Draisaitl with 4 primary assists. If you remember back to our 3rd round playoff preview episode, I took Draisaitl over 4.5 assists for the series. He had 2 going into that game, and I was like, damn it, he's not hitting it. And sure as shit, Leo came through. 3 apples. It was sweat free. He got the 5th one, or he got the 6th on the series too. It was that was a big one for me. And speaking of the series bets, I've already hit Kucherov over 2.5 goals as well. Cha-ching.
Ka-chow.
Ka-chow.
It's too bad the Oilers kind of got shut out on that one game, because those bets for the Draisaitl and McDavid to have a point in every single game. Like, well, they got him in all the other ones, right? They got him in.
Draisaitl missed on game 3 as well.
4.
Yeah. McDavid was 3 of 4.
Okay, fair enough, but yeah. Close.
Very close. Yeah, again, I mean, the Oilers getting bounced. Like I thought it was going to be a longer series than it was. Like if you would have asked me to pick one of those 2 series that was going to be short, I probably would have said the Lightning Rangers was going to be the shortest of the 2. And that just hasn't been the case. The Avs roll over the Oilers. They look like a juggernaut. Like I know, Liam, your thing is like, you're not going to bet against Tampa, but even if it's Tampa, Colorado, I mean, Colorado just looks so damn good.
I've changed my mind now after watching Colorado so closely for 4 games. I am not betting against Colorado. Like they're going to go to the finals. And if they sweep again, would anybody be that shocked? Like I wouldn't. Like they absolutely rolled the Oilers. They they were one period away from beating St. Louis in 5 as well. They fell asleep in game 5, was it? Yeah. And then, excuse me, and then rolled over Nashville with no goalie. So consider that, I suppose. But like Tampa and New York have had to grind to get to this far in the playoffs. Like Colorado's fresh.
Yeah.
Like they have more time off. They've basically had the maximum time off you can have, pretty much, right?
They've lost 2 games in the playoffs through 3 rounds. Like that's
stupid.
Yeah, Nashville was like they lost their starting goalie or whatever, but like you don't get to the playoffs on a scratch ticket, and they've just been steamrolling people.
It's not even close. We don't really know what the odds will be yet for the Avs, whoever they play. But they're stupid favorites now. I'll fire up PointsBet here, PointsBet Canada, and take a peek at it. But they're stupid favorites to win the cup, which means they're going to be favorites whoever they play. The Avs are minus 250 to win the Stanley Cup right now. Like that's wild. But the interesting one for me is the Conn Smythe. Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon are really close. Makar plus 175, MacKinnon plus 200. I would take Makar. I actually think betting on Makar is a smarter bet than betting on the Avs to win the cup.
I think Makar really showed what he had in that Oilers series. Like the way he just played against McDavid, like that one play in particular where it was I think it was game 2 when they were coming in and he just poked the puck right off his stick and they were both skating, not at full speed, but pretty good. And I just think Makar has caught the eyes of so many people this playoffs. Like, I think it's pretty obvious why he's the favorite over MacKinnon.
He's a hell of a hockey player.
Yeah.
It's not just, I don't remember who said it, but he's not just an offensive defenseman either. He's an absolute animal out there. So I think betting on him for the Conn Smythe, I mean, I'd say that's a pretty healthy bet.
Yeah, and he was better than MacKinnon in the conference finals. I think he really brought his game up a level. Speaking of he
wasn't filthy dirty, although that has nothing to do with betting.
That's fair. The other bet that I had, or one of the other bets I had for the conference finals, I went 4-3, or I'm 4-3 so far. I got Cale Makar at minus 150 to put up more points than Darnell Nurse. And that was just silly. Like, I wish I would have bet more on it. Makar ends the series with 9 points. Darnell Nurse ends the series with 3. Like, that was just such a lock. Like, Makar is on another level.
Yeah.
And Nurse couldn't even skate properly. Like we found out yesterday, like all of us knew he was injured, but no one quite knew exactly what it was. And torn hip flexor, the fact he was even playing was impressive.
And walking.
Walking was impressive. Like, and to put that as a bet, like that just seems a bit silly to me. It's not quite equivalent, is it?
No. The other, I'm just sorry, I'm going to go.
That's always one of the wildest things about the playoffs. Sorry, Tyler, is just when that comes out, like today, Ken Holland did his year-end presser and he's just like, Darnell Nurse, his hip was falling off. Leon Draisaitl has got one leg. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, shoulder injury. Jesse Puljujarvi, shoulder injury. And there's a bunch of other guys that had stuff as well. It's just wild what these guys play through.
Yeah. This is off topic, but PointsBet Canada has the odds on who's going to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft up. And Shane Wright is minus 1,250, which means if you were to put $100 on Shane Wright to be the first overall pick, you would profit $8.
Hey, that's the easiest $8 you'll ever make though.
What's Cooley?
Logan Cooley is plus 1,600. Which means if you were to put $100 on Logan Cooley, it would pay out $1,700. Chris Peters has Cooley as his number 1 pick.
That's my thing too. Like a lot of people have Cooley going 1. Like I think the Habs will ultimately take Shane Wright because he's Canadian, but I don't know. Like I don't think it's that likely that Shane Wright's going first overall. Might be worth throwing a little bit on Cooley.
Hey, plus 1,600. Why not?
Yeah.
A couple of shekels.
$5.
$5.
Could surprise me. It is Montreal after all. Like could surprise you with something weird.
And their GM is, or sorry, not their GM technically, but Jeff Gorton's, he's American, isn't he?
Yeah. And maybe Kent Hughes would take his son. What's Jack Hughes' odds to go first overall?
And yeah, there will be another Jack Hughes coming in. Yeah, he is. Jeff Gorton is American. So maybe he's sitting there just being like, yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah, because you remember his press conference where he like struggled to speak French, but really tried his best to do it. And he's like, sorry, I'm American. I don't speak French.
How funny of a moment would it be, though, if Jeff Gorton goes up to this stage? Like the crowd in Montreal would go nuts if he did this, and he announces the first overall pick in like perfect French.
That'd be cool.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's been working on that exact thing. I wish I could bet on that right now because I bet he does it. I bet he does exactly that. Maybe it won't be perfect French, but I would bet I'd empty the clip on him announcing it in French in Montreal.
That, like, if you want to talk about a way to like endear yourself to a fan base, that's how you do it.
That's the easiest way to do it. Yeah. They've got an obsession with hiring only French folks and the fact that they didn't this time around. But if he comes out and says it in French, come on, everybody'd love it.
Speaking of the Habs, and I'm again going to go off on a tangent that has nothing to do with betting. How weird is it that everyone just sort of accepts the fact Marty St. Louis is now an NHL head coach? It's like, oh yeah, that guy never
to the big leagues, baby.
Like he was coaching peewee teams or whatever, like bantam teams. Yep. And then it was you're good enough.
To that exact point, like for the Oilers, a recap Jay Woodcroft's press conference on social media as he was talking. And if you think about his journey, he was a video coach for like 200 some odd games. And then he was an assistant coach for like 1,000 games. And then he went down to the American League for 3-4 years. And then he's back up, finally get a chance, but it took Dave Tippett getting fired to get him there. And then, Marty St. Louis was coaching his kids, peewee or whatever it was, straight to the show.
Can you imagine being one of those like lifelong American League coaches, just like grinding for your shot? Years and years of riding the bus and breaking up like grainy tape of AHL games. And Marty St. Louis like, oh yeah, my peewee team's pretty good. And the Habs are like, damn it, you're in.
We won a Christmas tournament.
He did the brick tournament a few years ago in Edmonton. He was a head coach of a brick team. He might not actually, you know what? He was the assistant coach of the brick team. I don't think he was a head coach.
Yeah. Cause I did play-by-play for that year when he was there. And I stood at a urinal next to Marty St. Louis once, and his quads are massive. Like you see them in person and it's like, holy shit. Yep. All right. Well, anyways, back to the bet. No, what?
I was going to say Chris Weidman was on the Suitcase and the Scribe today, and he spoke about Marty St. Louis, and he said some of the trainers and stuff that had been at Montreal for like 30 years. They said when St. Louis came in and did like his introduction speech, like the trainers were just blown away with what this guy said. They were like, they have never heard any coach come into that Canadiens dressing room and like just be so like inspiring to his players and all that kind of stuff. So quite interesting.
It is. And he's got an extension now. Montreal's going to be an interesting team. Like they're going to have a number one overall pick in their lineup next season, assuming they keep the pick, which they obviously, I think, would. Can you imagine if they number one overall pick in front of your home fan base and they just go like, you know what? We're going to move down to 6. Just get a couple second rounders.
Also, a shout out to Dominic Ducharme, who's still being paid for another couple of years to just kind of hang out, chill, you know?
Man, that'd be a great life if you were like, I know there's the competitiveness of these guys and all of that, but for us as outsiders, can you imagine if someone came up to you right now and was like, hey, you're not going to do your job anymore? You're like, what? Like, yeah, but we still got to pay you for 3 more years. Oh, interesting. Yeah,
you can just like chill, you know, wake up and watch ping pong at like 4 a.m. if you want, because that's when it's on. Mm-hmm. I like it.
Do we have any other Stanley Cup stuff? Like I'd imagine, or we'll definitely be doing another episode before the Stanley Cup finals. So like, I don't know. I think this series between the Rangers and Lightning is going to go 7 games. That's my best guess. I think the Rangers maybe bounce back in game 5. I'm not willing to bet against the Lightning losing again though. So I like PointsBet has the series -110 to go 7 games. I'm on that, but I'm not really on a whole heck of a lot else.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, like for the Rangers perspective, I thought they had a chance to kind of really put their foot on the throat of the Lightning when they were up. What was it, 2-1 going into the third period of game 3, but then ultimately lost that one. So I wouldn't bet against the 2-time champs. And it seems like Vasilevsky woke up here as well. So that's a rough one, but I would go with you on going to 7 games for sure. -110. I would sprinkle on that.
I would say one quick thing, if you want to get an early jump on some Conn Smythe odds, Vasilevsky, I believe, was +500, right, to win. Now he's +900. If Tampa's winning, like he's will probably win the Conn Smythe. So if you want to jump on that, now it looks pretty good, even with the series tied. I'd be curious what it was when they were down 2-0, to be honest. I bet it was probably 2,000 maybe. I don't know, maybe not that high.
The interesting thing too, like, And maybe I think this is a bit of a lesson in terms of how you attack betting on favorites in playoff series. But Tampa Bay goes down 0-2 and their odds went all the way into the plus side, right? Like I think you could have found them at like plus 120 at one point when they were down 2-0 and they hadn't played a game at home yet. And I just think like maybe this is logic we apply to the Stanley Cup final. If all three of us think Colorado are going to win, but the Avs will probably open up as like minus 190 favorites or something, right? So if they open up as minus 190, they haven't played in 10 or 11 days. The other team will be coming in nice and hot. Maybe you just wait till after game one, hope the Avs lose, and then go, okay, I'm in on a live bet because their odds will plummet from minus 190 to like even money if they lose game one.
A big story with that finals will be for the Lightning is how healthy, or not Lightning, the Avalanche, how healthy are they going to be? You know, they got beat up a little bit in the series against the Oilers. Is Kadri going to be able to play? You know, they said he was out for the remainder of the Western Conference Finals, but what about the finals? Burakovsky didn't look like himself in game 4 after taking that shot in game 1 for Bouchard. So they're banged up too. So I wonder how many guys will be healthy or at least healthy enough to play over this next week. 8 days, 9 days, whatever it is.
Even Kemper, right? Like I think the Oilers did a better job of getting to Francouz in game 4, but his life wasn't like overly difficult. Now you go and play a New York or Tampa who have had to go up against elite goaltending at both ends. Like it might be a little easier for them to score on him compared to what they've just had to deal with for 6-7 games, whatever he goes to.
Yeah. The other thing too, we talk about guys playing through injuries and stuff. The headline of Kadri may miss the rest of the playoffs with a thumb injury. Like it makes you think like you think a thumb injury is like, all right, just bandage it up, like splinter it. He's going to play. His thumb must be like mangled.
Oh yeah. I thought that too. Apparently he's in a cast, right? Didn't someone tweet that out that he was casted up?
I didn't see that,
but either way, like, yeah, like we just said, Nurse had a torn hip flexor, like Draisaitl had a high ankle sprain. What was it a few years ago? Carlson was playing on like a torn ACL or something like that, right?
Yeah, he was like something stupid
crazy.
Up.
It's just wild.
Last year literally ended his career because he was so hurt. Well, and now Kadri's he must be like just broken in like 6 or 7 spots. Maybe not that much, but like
that thumb must be hanging off.
Yeah, it would have to be, I think, to like keep him out of the lineup.
Yeah. Okay. I actually have one more bet before we shift to our other sports. Andre Palat has picked up at least a point in 4 of his last 5 games. He's been sick. Like he's got 4 goals in his last 5 games. PointsBet has him at minus 110 to pick up a point tomorrow night in game 5. I think that's something to look at. Even if you're not confident with a winner on either side, I think taking Palat to get a point. And I've been really big into the Mika Zibanejad assist prop as well at plus 120. I think both those are like pretty good spots heading into game 5. So those will be my 2 game 5 suggestions.
I have one quick one too. So this is one I've hit pretty often, I would say, throughout the playoffs. So Adam Fox rarely scores. Like I think he had 6 goals in the regular season. He might have 1 or 2 in the playoffs now. His points are always around like minus 180, but his assists are always between minus 120 and 140. If he's getting a point, he's getting an assist more likely than a goal. So if you're looking to bet on Adam Fox, I would recommend betting his assist rather than betting on his points because you get a little bit more value there. Even power play points too. That's where he gets a lot of his points from.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Which is plus 140 right now for game 5.
Moving away from hockey, is there anything better now that, I mean, the 3 of us from an Oilers perspective are cruising into off-season mode? Is there anything better than the days where the Toronto Blue Jays play in the afternoon?
I just loaded up a bet. As you were talking, I just loaded up a bet.
What do you got?
I did a same game parlay. I got Kikuchi to record the win. I got Matt Chapman over a half base, Vladimir Guerrero over 1.5 bases. And that comes out a tasty little plus 700.
Whoa. Okay. Wait, I want this rolled past me one more time for no specific reason. Just hit me with that. Hit me that again.
Kikuchi to record the win.
Okay.
Like, so the Jays, as we're recording today on Wednesday, they're going to sweep the Royals. So Kikuchi to record the win.
Okay.
Plus Chapman over a half base in the match. Guerrero over 1.5 bases in the match. and that's coming out at plus 700.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That sounds interesting. If I was someone with a sports book that allowed me to make that bet, I would be very intrigued by it.
I thought it was a mistake when I saw the plus 700 beside it. Cause I thought it was a reasonable bet considering how the Jays have been playing recently and in this series. So I'm hopeful. I'm feeling good about it.
Why is Kikuchi plus 195 to record the win while the Jays are minus 130 on the money line?
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you. Is there something that I don't know about what's going on with Kikuchi right now? Because the odds on this are just crazy good.
Yeah. Also, if he's gonna record the win, he's got to pitch at least 5 innings, which means he's got to get at least 15 outs. So you could get him over 15 and a half outs in this parlay as well, which I will be doing. And then you got Chapman, and then it was Guerrero over 1.5 bases, or Guerrero to record a hit.
Over 1.5 bases.
Okay. Juicy. I like it. All right. I am in on this. I dig. You know what? There's none better. Little afternoon baseball on a Wednesday. Come on. I know. I'm telling you. All right. That is secured by adding in the Kikuchi over 15 and a half outs, which is risky. Obviously he's going to have to pitch into the 6th inning for that to happen. I got it up to 1,100. Woo, sweaty.
That's juicy. That's chasing the dragon a little bit on them odds.
If you want to play it safe, the one thing that I've been really loving, and finally it's paying out, because I bet this almost every Jays game day. Not quite every Jays game day. There's some pitching matchups I steer away from, but just parlaying Jays to win and over 4.5 runs has been insane. If you go back to May 24th, they hit it against St. Louis, then they hit it against LA in 3 of the 4. So that's 4-1 is the record if you parlayed the 2. And then they hit it once, twice, 3 times against the Chi Sox, which means 7-1 is the record. And against the Twins, because I actually did it for all 3 of those games as well. They missed twice, hit it once. But even then, that's 10-3 is the record, parlaying that. Now they've hit it back-to-back against the Royals. So I'm riding with that too. Like, it's just super safe. If you parlay their team total with the Jays to win, it's I'll do the odds here quickly, actually, in the bet builder. Blue Jays over 4.5, and the win is plus 120. Like, it really does feel like one of those things that's kind of a little bit of free money right now, at least in my opinion. I love betting on baseball. That. Love a good baseball bet. All right. What else do we got here on the script? Oh, NBA Finals tonight. Liam, yes. I tasked you before the show started a few hours ago. I said, Liam, do my dirty work for me. Find me some NBA Finals props. What do you have?
I have a few. We'll start off with the big dogs. So on Golden State, obviously Steph Curry's probably the best player in this series, and the Celtics have not been able to contain him at all. So we had 34 points in game 1, 29 in game 2. Now, obviously this game 3 is going back to Boston, but his point total is 28.5, and he sat out quite a lot of the 4th because in game 2, because they were up so much. Okay. So right now tonight it's 28.5 at minus 115. I feel like until the Celtics prove they can stop Curry, that'd be a good spot to go if you're on the Golden State Warriors side. Okay. As for the Celtics best player, Jason Tatum, 27.5 is his point total. In 9 home games this playoffs, he said it in 5 games. So he's at like 50%, I suppose, but he played much better last game than game 1. So I would think that would be a good spot for him to come back. And I just think that different sport. That arena is going to
which also is a rink, because they play at the same spot.
Yes. A couple other ones I have. Here's one that I don't like doing this, but I've done this a couple of times on the show. 19.5 points for Klay Thompson.
Okay.
He's only gone over once in his last 7 games, and he's just not shooting well at all. So last game, obviously when the bench guys come in, like all the starters go out, but Klay Thompson stayed in to try and like get a rhythm and stuff like that, you know, like feel the ball a little bit better. And he just kept missing every single shot he made. I can't remember how many points he finished with, but he's just not playing like Klay Thompson right now. So I think until kind of like with the Celtics trying to defend Curry, until they can figure out until Thompson can figure out how to put the ball in the basket. That's one I like. And then just one more. That's a little juicy. Marcus Smart, 13.5 points is plus 105. He has hit this in 3 of his last 4. Granted, last game, I think he only finished with 2 points, but the whole team didn't play well.
Okay.
So he's hit it 3 of the last 4 and 11 of his last 17 playoff games. So that's where I would go. And then, I don't know, in the finals, it's so hard to say who's going to kind of come on top, especially when Golden State has all the experience and the Celtics this group has never been to the finals before. So I don't know which way it would go. Celtics are the favorite right now to win, but I might just stay away from that kind of stuff and just go with player props.
I like the
what are some of the most fun? I don't bet on basketball at all. So Liam, what are some of the fun player props to do in basketball?
I like doing the points, assists, rebounds, because then that way you're engaged in like the whole game. Like every time that player does something, you're kind of rooting for them the whole time. I like doing that one. Another thing I like to do is just make big, like same game parlays. But if you're going to do that, you got to hit the milestones rather than like the totals. For example, if like Marcus Smart tonight, his threes is 1.5. But if you hit him on the milestones, he just has to hit 1 3. Okay. So he doesn't have to get the 2. So it's like a little bit more in your favor. The odds are obviously a little bit lower, but then you put them into parlays, it kind of works out, and you can get actually pretty good odds when you parlay a few things together.
So that's actually a lesson I've been learning a little bit with my baseball bet builders. You need to play it safe when you're doing the same game stuff. Like as much fun as it is to like, if I take it from like 1 to 2, I mean, my payout by like, it goes from plus 160 to plus 190. And I've just been kind of finding. So this is just in the last like 2 weeks here on the Jays. My bad beats. I missed a 3-1 parlay, a plus 300 parlay by one Manoah strikeout. I could have taken him at 4. I brought it up to 5. I missed because he ended with 4. I missed a 5-1 parlay because I took Teoscar Hernandez over 1.5 bases instead of just over half a base. Missed it. That was the last leg I needed. Didn't get it. And then Bo Bichette, I missed a 4-1 parlay because again, I took him over 1.5 bases when I should have just played it safe and took him at 1, taken the lesser payout. It would have knocked it down to like 3-1 instead of 4-1. And that one was also super annoying because Bo came up in the bottom of the 8th. It was a nothing game. The Jays were up by 1 million and he smoked one to the fence. And I was like, yes, got my over 1.5, like parlay hit. And the camera pans to Bo and he like rounds first, but they're up by a lot. So he kind of just like chuckles and goes back to the bag. It's like, no, what are you doing? Bo, that was my bet. No. Yeah, that was a tough one. That was a bad beat.
That's a tough one. Yeah.
So I just put together another little one on the Jays today, Tyler. Well, what do you think about this one? So over 4.5 runs for the Jays, money line, Toronto, and just a Chapman over half base. That gets you a plus 375.
Yeah. See, like that's a safe one, right? Like you're taking the runs, which they've been getting a ton of, and Brady Singer, like he's not that good. That's a big problem with the Royals. They are the worst team in baseball and their starting pitching just isn't that good. So I like the safe play there. And then, it's almost a little hedge off your big parlay because you just have a couple less pieces, but it's similar. Singer, by the way, in his last 2 games has allowed 10 earned runs. So yeah, I like the Jays, chances of the Jays lighting them up in this one. You guys are going to talk about F1 in just a second. But this weekend is one of my favorite golf tournaments of the year. And it's the RBC Canadian Open. And I love this thing. 1, it's the big golf tournament in Canada. And 2, and I think this is part of the reason, because sometimes it doesn't get like all the big names, but because there's this weird thing going on with that Saudi tour in the PGA, and there's a Saudi tour event going on, I think a lot of the big guns were like, let's play this weekend. Like, let's keep the eyeballs on the PGA tour because you have Scotty Scheffler, world #1 Masters champion, Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, Cameron Smith, Shane Lowry, Matt Fitzpatrick, Sam Burns, Corey Connors, obviously the Canadian, but there's like a ton of big names in this weekend's tournament. So a couple of plays that I like in this one.
I was going to ask you because I've never bet, again, just like basketball, I've never bet on golf before. So I want to ask you about some of the fun props you can do on a golf tournament.
So there's a few different ways to bet on golf. You can just do outrights for the tournament, and you can bet on someone to come first. You can bet on someone to come top 5, top 10, or top 20. And those are, you're going to be watching the whole weekend. I usually go heavy on a couple guys because it really makes it interesting if you get to Sunday and you have some guy who is like 40-1 to win and he's in contention, right? The only thing I would also always say is if you're going to take someone like, this weekend, I'll throw a little on Mackenzie Hughes because he's a good Canadian boy and it'll be kind of fun to watch him play at this tournament. And I actually think his game lines up pretty well for the course. He's 75-1 to win. I'm also going to throw a little bit on 9-1 on him to come top 5. So if he comes second and you're not sitting there being like, God damn, like you're still going to get a pretty nice payout on something. There's also ways to bet sort of day to day because it's a 4-day tournament. You can do round 1 leader. And one bet I love in terms of a round 1 leader is Conn Smythe. He's one of the lowest scoring, or he might be the lowest scoring first round player on tour right now. And I just think you're going to get him at, I think it was like 20-1 on him to lead the first round. I think that's tremendous value. It's a great play. He usually starts weekends or tournaments really well. I like that. The other thing you can do, and Liam, I think you really like these, and it's something called a 3-ball. So the sports books will just go and they'll randomly, or not random, but they'll group together 3 golfers based on when they're playing and all that. They'll group together 3 golfers and you just get to pick who's going to lead the trio in that round. So a spot I really like there, and I just lost it on my screen. But Nick Taylor is in a group with JJ Spawn and Tony Finau. Finau's the favorite at plus 115, but I think Nick Taylor at plus 220 is in a really interesting spot there. You also have the Canadian angle. And I also like Justin Rose. He's in a 3-way with Tyrrell Hatton and Harold Varner. And I think Rose at plus 210 is really good. Like you get some really intriguing payouts on these 3-way bets. And I can't find Justin Thomas's, but I love JT. So I'm probably betting on JT as well, a few different ways this weekend. So Conn Smythe to lead after the first round, I think is a really nice spot. And then I also like Justin Thomas to win at 11-1, Corey Connors to come top 5 and top 10, plus 350 and plus 220 is a great spot as well. And I'm also going to be playing a ton of Draftkings for this because golf Draftkings is it's up there for the most fun to play Draftkings for. So I'm doing that as well.
How do points work in DraftKings?
So you'll get like 3 points for a birdie, 2 points for a par. If it's a bogey, you get like nothing. If they're leading the tournament, then your guy will have like 20 points. And what that does, because it's different points based on where they sit in the standings. So you'll sit there and you'll fire up DraftKings and you'll be like, oh man, like I'm so far out of the money. And then like one of your guys will knock down 2 birdies and go from 20th to 3rd. And you will just like shoot up the rankings. The plug I wanted to give here, if you want to get into DraftKings, there's this guy on Twitter. His name's Tyler Tamboline. Tambo is what he goes by. Toe tag and Tambo is his @ and he is unreal at breaking stuff down. He's also unreal in general at DFS golf. Like he posts his winnings all the times and it's stupid. But he does this thread every week called Tambo's Tidbits. And it's like analytics and he breaks everything down, but he gives it to you in like a really concise way. So if you're looking to play DraftKings, go to Tambo's Tidbits on Twitter. I'll retweet it right now as well, actually, because it's really good stuff. So that's your golf breakdown. If you want to get in, it's a Canadian tournament. There's a couple Canadians in the field that are in really interesting spots as well. And there's some big names. So if you're a golf nerd, it's going to be a ton of fun. Wow. We're going long today. I didn't even notice that. Let's wrap up with a little F1 talk. What do you guys got?
Early race this weekend, Liam. I don't know if I might have to PVR this baby and just ignore social media for a little bit before.
What time does it go?
It starts at 5 a.m. Mountain. It's an interesting sport to follow for that reason, is just because sometimes you're waking up at 7 and then you get the North American race and it's at noon and you're like, huzzah. And then this weekend's at 5 a.m. So Azerbaijan, I'm looking at the track right now. There is a couple of DRS zones, which is fun. I'm really I don't know about you, Liam, but I'm just looking for a more fun race than Monaco. I thought that was extremely boring and dry for the most part, outside of, Leclerc had that pit issue that bumped him down from 1st to 4th, which was shocking, especially considering I had him in my DraftKings. But I'm just looking for a more fun race here in Azerbaijan.
I think especially too, considering Spain was the week before or when the race before, whenever it was. And that one was actually pretty fun. There was a lot of overtaking, like a lot of stuff was happening. And yeah, Monaco, like once you get in front, you just park your car and just drive in the middle and no one's going by you, right? Like, and that's just kind of how it is. But Azerbaijan's good because it's always quite a variety of winners. Like I think the last 4 or 5 at least have been different winners every single time. Like Perez won last year, like Bottas has won, Ricardo has won there. So, but this week, I think I'm going to go back to Max Verstappen to kind of get back on. There was obviously a bit of controversy. I guess you can call it controversy, I suppose, when Perez won over Max. Like Max's dad was not very happy with it. But I could see Red Bull kind of pushing it back on, being like, Max is our guy. Like, sorry, Checo, like make way.
Yeah, Perez, you got your win last weekend in Monaco. Like, you got the win and you signed an extension with Red Bull. It's back to Max chasing the championship again. And also, you would have to assume for Verstappen, he wants a bounce back from last year because he had a retirement last year in Azerbaijan.
And I think he was winning when he retired, or he was right up there at least. So you would, like you said, like you would imagine he wants to get back in the good books in Azerbaijan. And then also another one that I kind of liked was. I don't know if this will happen this year, but a trend that has happened is Vettel has finished, I believe, top 6 in his last 5 races at Baku. So right now, for him to finish top 6 is 10-1. So just a little trend that's happened. He's actually been racing better, I think. Like he missed was it the first race or the second race or both maybe? Like, I guess he's had a few races behind everybody, but he seems to kind of be gaining a bit more speed every week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, unfortunately, it's a little bit early, so I'll probably be PVRing it and ignoring social media for the first, 2 hours of my day so I can watch the race without getting spoilers. Last time I did this, Liam, rookie mistake on my part. Again, first year totally into F1. PVR'd it, recorded, but then just not thinking, I opened up my app to look at my Draftkings and how I did, and just, there's the race. Whoopsies.
That's funny. All right. I like that 10-1 bet. I don't know anything about F1, but you got stats to back up a 10-1 bet. Damn it, I'm in.
To be fair, he raced for Ferrari for 3 of those 5 races, so I don't know if it'll even work anymore, but I don't know. Bell's a good racer, so we can see what happens.
All right. Good stuff.
Yeah, and the head-to-head bets are always interesting in a race like this. I always like those. They don't have anything up too much yet, but one that I would be looking for is one that's a little bit interesting to me is Daniel Ricciardo to beat Lando Norris at plus 200. Lando's been racing well, but this is, like you said, this is a race that Ricciardo has won before, so that one's interesting to me. I just like the head-to-heads. I think those are fun going into a race like this, especially there's like I said, there's 2 DRS zones. There's a long straightaways. So hopefully we get some interesting outcomes.
I've said it before, but I like doing the group ban on F1 too. Just the kind of mini races within the race is always kind of fun to track. It's almost like that 3-ball that Tyler was talking about for the golf. Very similar.
One that I like too is first lap retirements at plus 120. Yes. I always think those are funny because you never know what can happen in an F1 race. And when you've got a guy like Latifi on the track, you never know because that guy crashed last weekend before the race even started.
So 2 Canadian races were out of the race before it even began.
Red flag plus 150. You don't want to see a red flag, obviously, to halt it, but that's an interesting one. There's an opportunity maybe for some crashes here. So interesting bets you can always put on an F1 leading up to qualifying on Saturday.
Should be fun. Got F1, got golf, got NBA finals, NHL conference finals still going on. And we got baseball starting in like 14 minutes. So let's wrap this bad boy up.
Juicy parlays coming from the baseball.
Yeah.
Let me throw one quick juicy parlay at everybody.
Okay.
So This is a soccer one. There's a lot of internationals going on right now. So they do this thing called Nations League. It's basically just glorified friendlies. So Turkey was relegated from B to C last year, and the C groups are terrible. And Turkey's actually pretty good. So to put it into perspective, Turkey's the 43rd ranked team in the world, went to the Euros 2 years ago. Now they're in a group with Luxembourg, who's 94, Faroe Islands, who's 124th, and Lithuania at 138. And the Bucks quite haven't grasped onto the idea of like Turkey are actually really good and all these teams suck. So yesterday I hit one. They've won every game by more than 3 goals, by the way. They've only played 2, but they're going to continue to do it. So if you do Turkey to win, them to score 2 or more goals, and then another one I like to do just to kind of bump the odds up is to bet on how many corners there will be in a game.
Okay.
So if you do over 6 corners, it gets you to plus 250. And it's hitting back-to-back games, and it's going to continue to hit because these other teams just don't have anybody who can score, or anyone in particular. And Turkey have like players that play all over Europe, Champions League, like are really good players, and they're just in this group because they kind of got screwed over last year. So there's one, and also Ukraine to win today against the Republic of Ireland.
There we go.
You got a BLT sandwich for this episode? Because I got my first leg. If you guys want to play,
okay, what is it?
I got one.
I got Jay's. We're gonna get a juicy one here. We're gonna go for. I'm swinging. So I got Jay's bet first inning winner plus 240.
All right. You know what's funny? You know what's funny is like I'm sitting here right now with the Sportsbook open. I literally just bet on that 4 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Jay's first inning. Winner. Liam, what do you got?
I'll do Ukraine to win. It was plus 187 on my book.
Ukraine to win against the Republic of Ireland. Okay. Wow. This is aggressive. This is very aggressive. So I will go with, I feel bad if I don't throw something aggressive in here, but I'm going to play relatively safe. I really liked your bet.
Do you have to? Because we've lost these on the third leg at times. Do you have to go aggressive?
No. No, Liam, I'm going to take, I really like your Steph Curry one over 28.5 points.
All right.
Plus 2,239.
Woo! Let's go.
That bet has been placed. All right. Ka-ching. Good episode, boys. We'll be back to talk Stanley Cup finals and some other stuff next week. Have a good week. Don't forget to join our Twitter community.